This meeting is being recorded.
So welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2022, showcasing the best of British cheese. I am Helen Blair, I'm from Good Sense Research, and I will be moderating the session today. This class is the external white mould cheese class, and we'd like to thank JKM Food for sponsoring this class. And now I'd like to introduce you to our two judges. Chris.
Hello, my name is Chris Dawson. I'm the senior cheese buyer at Marks and Spencer's. I've been in the cheese industry since 2003 and have travelled extensively across the UK and Europe looking for the very best cheeses that we can find. I've done many judging events over the years, and I'm greatly looking forward to judging the classes today.
Hero.
Hi, I'm Hero Hirsch. I'm from Paxton and Whitfield. I am their head of retail, having worked there since 2009, which means that I run their 3 cheese counters across the country. I've done quite a lot of cheese judging before, but never the virtual cheese awards before. So I'm very excited to find some really delicious cheese today.
The judges will be using a point system for scoring the cheese. This is against 5 different attributes, and the winner will be the cheese with the most points, and we'll go forward to the best category stage. So shall we start with the first cheese? The attributes that we're scoring on are appearance, aroma, texture, flavour, and true to character. So the first cheese is entry number E11140. So what do you think of the appearance?
I actually have a different cheese. Sorry, I had E1101.
Which one?
Or E11. I've got E1101.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. That's what I have first.
Okay, let me add that to the list. So E1101. Okay, so it's E1101.
So appearance wise, we're going to be white molded cheese. This is a nice looking, well developed white coat. Mine has a little crease in it, which I think may just be from transport. It's nicely developed though, just a little bit of rind ingress I noticed as I cut into it, but otherwise it's a very nice looking cheese, looks well made.
Yeah, I'd agree with Hero's comments there. Nothing further to add.
Out of 10, Chris, we thinking fairly high, of like an 8?
Yeah, 8. Yeah. 8's fine for this.
Okay.
And onto the aroma.
Not a very strong aroma. Not getting any ammonia.
Subtle.
Yeah,
it's quite subtle, I think. It's a slight hint of that raw mushroom, but nothing too strong.
Yeah.
I think in terms of aroma, 7.
Yep, I'm very happy to go with that.
And the texture?
I'd say it looks as though it's quite a young cheese. I'm only just getting a little bit of breakdown at the edge of the rind. Now, whether it's meant to ripen during life, I would suspect it should be. So this is probably quite a young sample from what I can see.
Yeah.
And certainly, as Hero said, there's a bit of rind ingress into the cheese.
I do also have some little air pockets as it is ripening. It's just pulling away from the coat a little bit, which is not ideal. It is a little bit young, I think, texture-wise. I'd like to see it a little bit more broken down.
So I think at this age, I'd probably give 6.5 for texture.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
And on to flavour.
It's nice and sweet, actually. You think it's a sheep's milk, Chris?
It has that
Mm.
vanillin flavour to it.
And the sweetness is just sort of nicely mixed with a kind of almost like creme fraiche, kind of yogurty freshness. Nice amount of salt.
It's quite a subtle cheese.
Mm.
You know, it's not in your face sheep. It's nicely balanced, nice level of salt, no particular back notes. You know, I'm thinking in terms of flavour around an 8.
Yeah, I think it's really good, actually. I think the only thing really preventing this cheese from kind of scoring a 9 or even a 10 for me is a little bit of kind of chewiness on the rind, because whilst it's not a very complex cheese, I think that's okay. It's not setting out to be a complex cheese, but for me the sort of thickness and the rind ingress is the only thing that's really preventing it from being a top scorer for me. But I think it's very, very nice.
I do wonder, maybe a little bit more salt. It's hard to tell how
It's hard to
typical.
say at this age, isn't it?
Yeah, and just could do with a little bit more richness. But yeah, no, in terms of flavour, 8, and I'd say typically true to type 7.5.
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I might even go 8 for true to character, just because it's just, it's kind of, I think it is doing what it sets out to do.
Fine, we'll go with 8.
Yep. Very nice.
And what is the next one? E11140 now.
That's what I have.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
This is appearance-wise quite different. It's almost the rind for me. It's almost sort of papery. Like a sort of, yeah, almost like it has fine tissue paper on the rind. It's a little bit, it's quite unusual.
You sure that's not the paper left on the cheese?
I'm pretty sure it's not the paper left on.
No, fine.
We'll find out when I chew it.
Again, this is, it's white all over. It's quite an even whiteness. I think as a consumer, you'd be quite pleased to open this. There's no nothing untoward there from its appearance. So again, I would say from probably an 8 for appearance.
Yeah, and certainly cutting into it, I think it's a very attractive looking bit of cheese. Okay.
In terms of aroma, I think there's not a huge amount there. There's a slight bit of this raw mushroom again.
Yeah.
This looks as though it's a cow's milk cheese.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think on aroma out of 10?
7.5.
Okay. Now, texture-wise, it's got a lovely breakdown, hasn't it? I mean, that is sort of quite shiny and pudgy, and just as you kind of want a cheese like this, but it doesn't look like you'll turn your back and it'll disappear.
Yes, again, it almost looks a bit like a stabilized.
It could be.
Brie.
It could be. It is so uniformly broken down that you're suspicious.
I can't see it ripening over life. based on what we're seeing here today, it looks as though it is what it is.
Yeah, and certainly sort of looking at the shelf life expectancy being another month away.
Yes,
I suspect you might be right on that.
And again, but the rind is incredibly thin. You know, it's
Yes.
a really, really thin rind, which is,
it could have been
you know,
painted on, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's really positive. You know, in terms of texture, I think it looks really nice, but I just probably would think it would score more highly if it was a ripening tree.
So if there was more,
but again, this could, you know, this could easily be just a cheese that's never going to have that. But
I think you might be right there, because in terms of the mouthfeel, it's very sort of coats the mouth, doesn't it?
I find the texture on the mouth slightly chewy, slightly claggy.
Claggy, yeah.
Claggy. And I think for those reasons, I just would score it down compared to the previous one. I think 5.5.
For flavour?
No, for texture.
For texture.
We didn't award
because
texture.
of the mouthfeel. Yeah.
5.5.
Yes, for texture.
Okay. And flavour?
Flavour-wise, we've got a lot of like butter going on here. It's sort of very, very buttery.
It's quite, for me, it's quite one-dimensional.
There's no great complexity. Even the rind isn't kind of particularly different from the paste in some ways. It's I quite agree. It's a little one-dimensional.
It feels like a very safe cheese, which, you know, it's a very pleasant eat, but you're never going to get very excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in terms of flavour, a 6.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with a 6.
Finally, true to character.
I think probably a 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we go on to the next one? That's E11141.
Yeah, we have a log. Quite a nice size. Appearance wise, is there maybe there's some ash or something on this coming through? There's definitely some darker spots underneath the white rinds.
Yeah, I think it could easily be an ash cheese underneath.
Yeah.
It looks quite rustic from its appearance. I think 7.5.
Yeah, I think it's sweet. It's not sort of perfect. I mean, there's definitely some slightly more rugged bits. I don't think that's a bad thing. 7.5 seemed very fair to me. Aroma wise, this is one of the stronger cheeses that we've had aroma wise today, which is nice.
I think from the aroma perspective, we've got an 8 here. I think it's a sort of classic goat's cheese with that, you know, very tangy aroma on it.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of texture here, I think it's breaking down nicely. You know, I'm probably got 20-20-60 in terms of 20% creaminess, 60 core and then 20% creaminess again. I think this will break down nicely over life.
Yep. I think mine may be a little bit riper than yours. It's definitely, I wouldn't want to take it much further than this. I think it should probably retain some kind of chalkiness through the core, and it's really just kind of clinging on to the last bit for me. But it's a very appealing texture. The rind could be a little more delicate, but it's definitely doing the job of holding the gooey cheese inside. So
texture 7.5.
yeah, probably a 7 for me. I think I'd just like to see it a tiny bit younger, but I think that may be a difference between your sample and mine.
Okay.
So the other ones were 6.5 and 5.5. So did you want to go 7 or 7.5?
I think 7's fine.
7.
And flavour?
It's certainly got lots of flavour,
Yeah.
lots of attitude, sort of classic goat's cheese.
But it's quite clean.
Mm.
Quite
lemony, quite a lot of lemon citrus notes coming through.
Yeah, citrus, salt, just a good amount of ghostiness. It's not, hasn't kind of gone over into the kind of very ammoniac goat where it's a bit sort of hoofy. It's perfectly in balance, I'd say. I think that's really delicious.
I would probably say for flavour 8.5.
Yeah, I'm very
I
happy
think it
with a
really
high score for flavour. Yeah.
On that. And I think overall, I would score that as an 8 for true to type in terms of the goat's cheese.
Yeah.
I think it's well made. And it certainly delivers a delicious goaty flavour.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very, very, very pleased with that. An 8 sounds good.
The next one I've got is E11159.
Okay. So we've got white molded, but more on the kind of geotrichum kind of yeasty, wrinkly mold. Nice even appearance. It's yeah, I think it looks like a nice, very nice cheese. Appearance wise, I'd be happy to see it get like a 7.5 or something. Would you say, Chris?
Yeah, I think my sample is quite interesting. Half of it is quite white, and the other half of it's sort of geotrichum and you know, ivory mixed with the white.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've got one which is uneven in ripening. So, you know, I'm sure it won't affect the flavour.
Well, I think
but
consistency wise, maybe we pull back from the 7.5 if it's if the
yeah, I would say a 7 for this one. In terms of aroma, quite pungent on the nose.
Yep.
Maybe some ammonia coming off.
Definitely.
It reminds me of the cheese that we judged in the last class.
Yep. Yeah,
and I think slightly white spirit aroma.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you score it for aroma?
I don't love the aroma of this.
I was probably going to say 5.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't go much. I wouldn't go any higher than a 6. So
5.5 because
yeah,
of the
absolutely.
in terms of the texture, My cheese is completely broken down inside. It is just running, it's oozy. For many people, this would be heaven on the plate.
Mhm.
You know, this is what they'd be looking for when they buy a cheese like this. Now, you could argue, is this too far gone? You know, there's no, I've got no core at all.
Okay, I have the very, very slight core. So just clinging on for, and then very, very kind of oozy just underneath the rind as it's breaking down. Are we marking texture still?
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
I think
there's a lot of people that would like that texture just as it is.
Yeah.
I think it's a very appealing texture. The rind isn't overly thick either, so I think texture-wise, I would probably
8.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
The shame for me is that the flavour isn't as balanced. I'm getting that chemical taint coming through in the flavour and the ammonia. I think it, unfortunately, is too far gone in terms of the flavour delivery, and it does have those spikes of flavours that I don't think are necessarily attractive to the consumer.
I think, yes, there is some flavours in here that maybe aren't intentional, that it's like disinfectant TCP type flavour. The salt is a little bit, yeah, sort of up and down through the cheese. So yes,
it's a real shame.
It is, because texture wise and appearance wise, it looks very, very tempting. But I think for me on flavour, I would struggle to go over a 6.
I think no more than 6.
Yeah, perhaps more like a 5.
Should we go 5.5?
Yeah, let's do that.
And true to character.
Or sort of overall mark. Perhaps a 6.
Yeah, let's go with 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next cheese I have is 1198.
Yep, that's what I have too. Slightly different looking.
This is a small wedge.
Yep, I'm just going to cut the edges off mine because I think it hasn't loved.
Sorry, it cut out for a second. What did you give the last one for true to character?
6.
6. Okay. And it's 1198.
1198. This is a small wedge of a cheese that we've been sent. Again, mine is quite solid.
Yeah.
I've got uneven colouring on the rind. I think maybe where it's been in contact with the paper.
Yeah, it's got a slightly stickier on the, I assume that's the bottom. So appearance wise, maybe a 6.5,
I'm thinking about
7.
6.
Yeah. Yep, 6 is fine.
In terms of aroma,
smells almost like a blue cheese on the nose.
I was getting a sort of sour blue note coming off it.
But there's no hint of blue to it.
No, it's a slight, you know how sometimes a dishcloth will go? It's a slight, I think it's a bluey note.
There's definitely something musty to it, yeah. Oops. So aroma.
I think 5.
Yeah, there's something.
It doesn't feel quite right on the nose.
There's something not quite. Yeah, I agreed. I think 5 on aroma is fine. And then texture wise, I mean, it's hard to tell with a cheese of this style because I'm not really familiar with this style if it's meant to be more broken down. I'd say that it is ripening evenly. There's a few small holes through the paste, which is hopefully intentional. The rind looks not too thick, but in terms of breakdown, I'm not quite sure what to expect with a cheese of this style, if it's meant to be breaking
Yeah, I think
down.
the rind looks very well made. It's very thin. I'm not convinced that this is going to mature and ripen to a creamy cheese at this moment in time. It just feels a bit solid, a bit lacking in moisture. So I would say for texture, 5.
Okay. I might be inclined to go a little bit more generous, because I'm just not sure if I know what it's meant to, if it's meant to break down further.
You gave the second one 5.5.
Could we go a 6 on texture, just for some benefit of the doubt? Because
I'm not convinced, but I just think it's just solid. I don't think this cheese should be as solid.
You think it's meant to be fully?
I think it should be breaking down more than it is.
Okay.
And I just think maybe it's not the best example of. I'm sure that there are better examples of this cheese.
Okay. We go 5.5,
Let's go
so it's getting
5.5.
the same as the second one.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. In terms of its flavour, I'm getting quite a lot of sourness on it.
It does. It's got some quite. It kind of reminds me of like a fruit yogurt. It's got that kind of fruity sourness to it, like a raspberry yogurt or a strawberry yogurt. It's different with every bite.
I'm struggling with this
I'm
one.
not sure I
in terms
like
of
it.
No, I wouldn't be rushing back to a second piece, sadly. So I'm going to score it a 5, I think, in terms of flavour. I just think a lot of customers wouldn't like that sourness. It's just not an appealing cheese.
It's I mean, it's quite a difficult one to judge, because I just don't really have much context around what this cheese is meant to be.
And all we can do is judge
it has some really interesting attributes, but like you say, I probably wouldn't rush back to it, but I wouldn't say that nobody would. I am comfortable going with at somewhere around the middle, the 5.5 for flavour.
Personally, I'd go with 5. I think it's very much an acquired taste. I just think for a lot of consumers, they just wouldn't be bowled over by this. I'm not sure there's enough other positive flavours going on to counteract that sourness. It's quite a dominant flavour.
I would be interested to see it at a different age profile as well. I think, but judging the piece that's in front of me now, I'm quite comfortable with a 5, but I would be interested to see it more broken down and to understand a bit more about what the producer's really angling for here.
Yes, no, I think that's a fair call. And overall for me, I would say it's around the 5.5.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The next one.
So the next cheese is 1208.
That's rather sweet, very fluffy. This one, the rind on this is very kind of like a snowdrift.
Yes, and the wrapper was sticking to the cheese.
Yeah.
So as I pull the paper away, so some of the rind has almost come away with it.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
It feels a little bit wet to touch.
Interesting. Okay. I unwrapped mine a while ago, so I didn't notice that as I was. But that said, I can almost peel some of this rind if I wanted to. So yeah, I think appearance wise, I have some reservations because of that on judging it very highly for appearance. So perhaps we're going more sort of the sort of 6 area maybe.
Probably 6.5. I'm thinking
6.5?
what we gave last one. I think it's
Sure.
probably slightly better than the last one, which
Yeah.
I think we gave a 6 to.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
6.5.
Yep.
Again, in terms of its aroma, it's fresh. It's got that cut mushroom again notes.
Yeah, very mushroomy.
So I think at least a 7.5 in terms of aroma.
Okay.
In terms of its texture, this looks like a double or triple cream cheese.
It definitely has that sort of yeah, almost clotted cream texture where it's breaking down, doesn't it? Which suggests that the rind a little bit thicker than some of the others we've been judging, but
I think a tad thicker, but maybe it needs that to keep the cheese together.
Yeah.
So
texture wise, I mean, I do have a fairly substantial firm core here, but it is breaking down evenly across the whole cheese.
And that's quite typical, I think, of a double cream.
Double or a triple, yeah.
So I'm thinking in terms of texture, 7.5.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, I think you're definitely right about the cream content.
7.5 for texture.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And you got that salty richness coming through in terms of the flavour.
Yep. Some nice
Again,
sort of
quite balanced.
yogurty kind of creme fraiche. Very buttery.
Again, I think it could benefit from a bit more age. I think we're seeing quite a young sample here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
getting a tiny bit of bitterness at the end,
which is often quite characteristic of a double or triple cream cheese.
I think coming from the rind.
Where's your mind at? 7.5 for flavour?
I think probably around there for flavour, and then trueness to character probably a little bit higher, because yeah, I think it's really delivering on what it's trying to be. Flavour wise, 7.
So it's 8 for true to type?
Yeah, 7.5 for flavour, 8 for true to character.
Yep.
And the next one is E11210.
This is definitely going to get the board covered. I can tell already.
This is very, very ripe.
Yeah.
This is squidgy ripe. It's I'm almost frightened to lift it up because it's going to collapse in my fingers.
In terms of appearance, it's it looks a little bit uneven in the way that it's been matured. I definitely got one side which is kind of caved in a bit, and that may be because it is that ripe, but I don't know that the turning has been, it just looks better on one side than the other. That said, it is, and there's quite a few cracks in the rind that are appearing again, I think, because it is that ripe.
I think from appearance, I would give it a 7.
Yeah, I think a 7 is good. And then aroma. It's got quite a musty kind of cellar kind of aroma. Oh gosh.
Again, a little bit of that cut mushroom again.
Yeah.
I'm thinking probably 7 for aroma.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, texture-wise, just cutting into it, it's not quite what I was expecting from handling it, because there is still a fairly firm core in here, but it's sort of floating in a pool of oozy breakdown. So not necessarily as even a maturing as I would hope for, I guess.
I've got something similar, a very small core and just loads of liquid gushing out. It's certainly at the far end of ripeness, I would suspect.
Although not ripening particularly evenly.
No, exactly. So for texture, we'll probably score that down then because of the uneven ripening. I'm thinking.
Yeah, sorry.
6.5. 6.5.
I think, yeah, 6.5. The rind looks quite thick, which is probably good for holding the cheese in.
Very rich, very creamy, and quite sharp and bitter on the end, which is a shame because upfront flavors are really positive. It's just that bitterness that's quite dominating at the end.
Quite a lot of bitter, quite a lot of salt as well. It's like bitter, like a sort of frise kind of lettuce kind of bitterness. And yeah, quite a lot of salt, and that rind is really quite a lot to get through.
I'm thinking because of those characteristics, Hero, score of around 5.5 for flavour, because I think it really it dominates. It does dominate.
Yeah, the bitterness is an issue, isn't it, when it's at this level of ripeness? And
true to type, I would say no more than a 6 because of the faults that we've identified. Yeah, I would definitely like to see this cheese probably a little bit younger than the sample that they've entered, because I think it does have potential, but what's happened to it as it ages has kind of lost its marks, I think, in the true to character. So I'm happy with a 6 for that.
And the next one is E11217.
I'm having to do quite a clean-up job on the cheese board after that cheese. Sorry, Helen, did you say E217?
E11217, yeah.
1217.
Yeah, that one.
This is definitely, mine certainly has been quite impacted by the packaging that they've chosen to use, because it's covered in little spots from the perforation in the plastic.
That's right.
So maybe it spent a little bit too much time I mean, it's actually quite attractive in some ways, but I don't think it's meant to be like that. For me, it does slightly, whilst I love polka dots, it does slightly draw back on appearance for me. I'd say maybe around the sort of 6.5 or 7 because of that. That said, it looks like a very evenly well-made piece of cheese.
I'd say 7. I think it is. It looks very well made. I think, yes, the paper gives that slight indentation, but I don't think a customer would have an issue with that.
Okay, let's go for a 7. Not the strongest smelling of them all.
Again, certainly not a cow's milk cheese.
No, agreed. What do you think on aroma, Chris? I'm struggling with the.
It's very clean on nose. I'm not getting any ammonia. I'm not getting any off taints. It's just a very pleasant aroma, you know.
Yeah.
So I would be thinking along the lines of 7.5, 8.
Okay. Yeah.
So if we said 7.5, Helen. Again, in terms of its texture, it looks quite a young cheese.
It does look quite young, doesn't it? Definitely very firm in the center.
But certainly one that I think will develop nicely during life. It gives that impression that it's breaking down quite evenly from the outer rind in. So from texture wise, 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'd sooner see it with a 7, just because what we have in front of us is so young and kind of quite springy still.
Okay, happy with a 7.
It's very clean, the flavour.
Very clean, slightly lemony, quite balanced. No spikes there, you know, nothing jarring at all.
Nice bit of sweetness, like sort of milky sweetness. Just a tiny bit of like nuttiness as well, like a sort of blanched almond kind of.
I'd be happy to give this an 8. I think it's coming over really nice.
I think it's really good, actually. I think it's. I'd be happy to see it higher than an 8.
How high is high?
I think the thing that would prevent me from giving this a higher score, like a 10, would be just wanting to see it a little bit more aged.
Yeah, I think
a little bit riper. But
the
quite a young example.
The highest score that you gave for flavour was the third one. That was E11141.
Yeah,
that was 8.5.
I think this is.
That was the goat's log.
Yeah, that was a little more complex than this, but I think it was as delicious.
I thought that one performed better in terms of flavour than this. I think this is promising, but not quite delivering, whereas the other one absolutely delivered. So for me, if the other one got 8.5, I think we should give this an 8. Yeah,
I agree that this is half a point behind. I just wonder if we should have given the goat's log a 9 now.
Well, we can when we come to tally up the scores, we can make a judgment call then.
Sure. I think, and then true to character, I think quite high. It's you know, it's a very, very well made bit of cheese.
I think when we look at the scores for the individual characteristics, I think score around the 7.5
Yeah.
overall.
Okay.
But yeah, a nice cheese, absolutely.
And the final one for this is E11219.
So we have a wedge of cheese here, cut from a much larger cheese, but it's a very, very young sample that I have here. I've probably got 5% rind,
Breakdown.
5%, and then about 80%, 90% core in the middle.
Yeah.
But it looks, in terms of its appearance from the outside, if without looking in, it looks a very well, nicely made cheese, very even white rind. So I think from an appearance perspective, before you cut into it, it looks really strong.
Yeah, definitely. I think even cutting into it, that amount of age looks quite intentional. It doesn't look like it's meant. It doesn't look like it's meant to be that much riper.
It's really
Rind looks
interesting when
nice and thin. I think it's probably quite high on appearance for me.
I would say 8 for the appearance.
Yep. Okay. Smells amazing.
It's very milky on the nose.
Yeah.
Some richness coming through there. Certainly one that I'm looking forward to trying. So
I think this is one of the nicest smelling cheeses in this class, actually.
Probably about an 8, I think, for aroma.
Yep.
Just quickly, what was it for appearance?
8.
Okay.
And then texture-wise, we do have a very crumbly core. Which is like that sort of fine, almost like a sort of feta-like texture. Or even firmer. I think when I'm looking at this cheese, I expected the texture to be much finer and sort of fudgier, whereas this has got quite a sort of loose crumble to it.
I wonder if that's intentional, though. It looks, I think it's almost designed to be like that. I think it's a very crumbly style cheese. I'm not expecting it to, it's high moisture. I think that's true to type.
Okay.
I think.
So where do you think texture-wise? Around a sort of 7?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with 7.
Yeah.
I might even be pushed to 7.5 because I think that's what the cheesemaker's trying to deliver here. I don't think you're going to get huge, because it's quite a large cheese, I don't think you're going to get a huge amount of breakdown over its life. I think you're always going to have quite a large core.
It's always going to definitely have.
So I would say 7.5 based on, the style of cheese that we have in front of us. And again, I think the texture is very pleasant when you eat it.
Certainly the breakdown by the rind is actually really, really good. I'm happy with 7.5 for texture. And then flavour, very clean. Quite citrusy.
I'd give it, I'm keen to give it an 8 for flavour. I think it's a lovely, it's lovely sweetness, lovely balance, no off flavours.
Yeah.
I think it's a really well-made cheese.
Okay, I'm very happy with an 8. I think it's delicious.
And then in terms of true to type, 8 again. I think it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a type of cheese I'm hugely familiar with, but I think overall, yeah, giving it a 7.5 or an 8, I'm very happy with. I think it's really good.
And if I personally go with an 8. I think, you know, when you look at the individual scores, we're giving it quite a few 8s, and I just think it's a very nice cheese. I think it really is.
I mean, I keep eating it, so I'm very happy with it.
I think that's a real sign of a great cheese.
Yeah.
That you keep on wanting to go back for more.
Yeah.
And it has that lovely balance, lovely sweetness and richness.
Excellent. Okay, happy with that. So was that the last cheese then?
So that was the last one.
Okay.
So that does actually just push that into first place with the third one, so E11141, just slightly behind. Are you happy with that, or do you want to reconsider? Or
I think overall, I think I'm happy with that score, because I think it really does deliver a very complex flavour for that style of cheese, and it's very balanced. I think the second cheese was a very good cheese as well.
Yeah, I'm happy with the last one being overall. I think I'd be happy to see that all cheese number 3, 1141, in first place. So if it's very close, then I'm happy either way.
I think we go with how the scores have turned out.
Yeah.
I think it's
which came in third?
The third one was the first one that was E11101.
Oh yeah, yeah, lovely.
Yes. So the winner is E11219.
Very good.
And we'd like to thank our sponsors of the Judges Packs, South Carnarvon Creameries and Butler's Farmhouse Cheeses, our aprons. And we're looking forward to the live event on Friday, the 13th of May, judging the best of all the classes in the categories, Best English, Irish, Welsh and Scottish cheese, along with the awards that recognise all the talented and passionate people within the industry. The day will culminate with the award of our Supreme Champion 2022. Thanks very much.